This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, Janet is off. A Winnipeg man taken to a Winnipeg hospital after a car crash left with even more injuries. He alleges he was beaten by hospital security at Health Sciences Centre. Bobby Thomas is now speaking out in the hopes that this does not happen to another family. The CBC's Rosanna Hempel reports.
I got a fracture.
Bobby Thomas has a concussion and his cheekbone fractured. But not from the car crash he was in mid-January. He alleges hospital security beat him, and he's been recovering since.
And then I couldn't go to work, and I live check to check, and it's pretty tough.
Thomas was in the crash on January 18th. An ambulance rushed him to Health Sciences Centre. After 8 hours of waiting, Thomas decided to get help elsewhere, but a nurse objected to him leaving.
I was being belittled for going against her orders to want to go get medical treatment elsewhere. And by then I was like, I'm done.
Thomas says he began recording the nurse. He says that's when a security guard got involved. Then a group of guards followed him to the lobby, where he went to wait for a ride.
I could be like 6'9", I'd still feel threatened. Like, why are these people following me in a place of safety?
He started recording again. Then he says a guard pushed him.
But then I threw my other arm up to try to push him off me, and then a punch came through. And I threw him back.
Thomas says the confrontation then moved outside, where about 5 security guards piled on top of him and punched him in the head.
I was yelling for help. I turned my head the other way, and then somebody grabbed my hair and then continued to repeatedly hit my head off the concrete.
A source who works at the hospital told CBC News they saw security push Thomas. CBC isn't naming them because of concerns for their job security. They say Thomas hit back, but that the guard's response was heavy-handed. They say what followed shouldn't have happened. When Thomas's sister April got to the hospital, she says he looked like this, and his hands were cuffed behind his back.
Is anything going to be the same for him? You know? Like, that's pretty traumatizing.
Winnipeg police say they got a call of an assault involving a man and security, and no one has been arrested. April says security accused her brother of being belligerent. Soon after, she says officers uncuffed him.
If they would have just said, you know what, I get it, it's busy here. I'm sorry. If you want to wait for your ride inside, that'd be all right. We're just going to stand with you to make sure you're okay.
Police say their investigation is ongoing. QP 204, which represents the hospital's in-house security, says it can't comment on the case while it's under review by the hospital.
In a statement shared, Health says the hospital is identifying more security training on de-escalation, use of force, and cultural sensitivity. They're also reviewing surveillance video. Thomas says the hospital apologized, but the experience has left him shaken.
And I'll probably never go to HEC again.
Thomas says hospital security needs better training, so what happened to him doesn't happen again. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg woman is facing dozens of charges tonight after police found tobacco products and cannabis were being sold illegally out of the convenience stores that she owns. CBC's Zabina Ahmed has the story.
Winnipeg Police says this convenience store on Sargent Avenue is one of the 3 shops illegally selling cannabis and tobacco products. Police say people in the community reported this out of concern. And last month, the owner and 2 of her employees were arrested and charged. Between September and January, police inspected the Sargent store along with one on Westminster Avenue and another on Talbot. They say during the inspections, they found age-restricted cannabis and tobacco products on display and available to minors. Police also found cartons of illegal cigarettes and cannabis products hidden in the stores. An arrest warrant was issued in January for the 41-year-old owner, who police say was out of the country at the time. She has since been arrested. She's charged with 30 offences, including the sale of unmarked tobacco products and selling cannabis and accessories appealing to young persons. In early January, Two men who worked at the store, aged 23 and 25, were arrested and charged for possessing and selling cannabis. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A former Manitoba doctor has pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting two more patients. Arcel Bissonnette pleaded guilty to those charges yesterday. An agreed statement of facts said the assaults happened while Bissonnette was a doctor in St. Anne. The victim said the assaults were painful and left them in shock. Bissonnette was previously found guilty in November of sexually assaulting 5 other patients. He hasn't practiced since 2020 when he was first charged by police. Last month, Manitoba's College of Physicians revoked his license. The trucker accused of smuggling $50 million in methamphetamine over the Canadian border has been released from jail on bail. Komal Preet Sidhu appeared in a Brandon courtroom yesterday. He was charged with importing meth and possession of a controlled substance for trafficking. RCMP say the drugs were found in the semi-truck he was driving at the Boissevain port of entry on January 14th. They allege the truck was headed to Winnipeg from California. A judge granted Sidhu's bail on conditions that include abiding by a curfew, wearing a GPS tracker, and only having one cell phone that is not password protected. Well, shifting gears now, February is Black History Month, as we've been showing you over the last couple of days, and lots of events are planned in the coming weeks right across Winnipeg. CBC's Emily Brass is in the Exchange District this evening for one of those celebrations and joins us live. Emily, what's happening behind you?
Well, Riley, we're here at the Manitoba Museum for a First Fridays event called Celebrate Black History, and it's a really festive atmosphere. There are all kinds of vendors here selling things like colorful African wax, fabric, clothing. There are artists with paintings and photography and beadwork. There are community groups here. Even the Sea Bears are here with a booth where you can try out your hand at free throws, and of course, lots of food. It smells great. There's food from Ethiopia, Jamaican cuisine, and even some treats that are South Sudanese style, and it's just one of many events that are lined up here for Black History Month in Winnipeg. And joining us now to talk more about it is Nadia Thompson. She's the program director for Black History Manitoba. Hi, Nadia.
Hello, welcome.
It looks like it's grown since last year.
It did. We have about 6 to 8 more vendors than last year, so we kind of squeezed everybody in, but it's such a great feeling and energy in the room. We are so happy that everybody can make it out.
And of course, the DJ's going, the party's getting started here, the room's filling up. There's also performances happening though, right? What's coming up?
So we're going to have some African drumming. We've got a dynamic dance troupe that'll be here. We also have our artists, our local artist Phenom will be performing, and Alaska will also be performing today. We have steel drums from Clyde Hira and the Paradise Band. So something for everybody, a little bit of here, there. It's going to be a really great afternoon.
Of course, it's all free as well. And over at your booth, the Black History Manitoba booth, there's a lot of books set up. You know, there's an educational side to this too. Tell us about the books and why they're important to have those here.
Well, a lot of our schools don't have enough community books that are expressing our African heritage and our Black history, especially here in Canada. So we have this mobile bookstore that we take everywhere with us. If you find a book that you like, and we may not be able to sell our own, but we can get it for you, and we can help give you different resources and where to find these books.
Okay, great. And then, of course, another learning opportunity that's coming up this month with Black History Month is a cooking class at Red River College on the 22nd. Tell us about that.
So we have a fantastic community member, Chef Rob. He's excellent, and we infuse food and knowledge and history. So it's such a great event. It's free again. We're going to be in person and online for that one because it fills up really fast.
Yeah, there's only so much room in the kitchen.
Exactly.
And then another event that's happening is the Afro-Caribbean Association is going to be putting on a job fair. That's on February 17th. What can you tell us about that?
Actually, that's been around for a number of years, and basically what they do is they get organizations that are looking for different, I guess, cultural groups that get these jobs. So they're looking specifically for people of African descent. And you can come out, bring your resume, It's a free event again. So the association has been around for a long time, and they want to promote career opportunities for our community as well.
And just in the last 20 or 30 seconds, tell us a bit about what's happening with the Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre.
They have a great play that's coming out. It's called The Mountaintop, and it's a depiction of the night before the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh my goodness, so there's a lot to learn there. And then the Winnipeg Jets have something as well.
They do. We have a Black History Night on the 20th. Tickets are available. Go to our website and get the link for the $50 tickets. We want to fill that house with all of us.
Thank you so much, Nadia.
Thank you very much for being here.
That's Nadia Thompson, the program director for Black History Manitoba. And the party here continues until 9 p.m. Riley?
All right, looks very lively there. Thank you so much, Emily. CBC's Emily Brass reporting live tonight. A new music-related exhibit opens today at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and they've brought in rock royalty to help kick it all off. The CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
Music of resistance and change. That's the focus of a new exhibit here at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. And music legend Tom Morello is here to help kick it all off. He'll play a concert here later tonight. But before he does, I spoke to him about his own activism through music. He touched on everything from how it impacts people to politics. Winnipeg, has a pretty lengthy history of activism here. A lot of people may point to the general strike, and even musically speaking, bands like Propaganda exist. But so what does it mean for you, I guess, to be part of a Canadian exhibit here in a city with such a rich history of activism?
This is a great human rights museum. I look at my catalog of 22 albums as kind of a human rights museum in its own right. So it's a good match. The entire history of my recording and performing career has been about more than entertainment. It's about changing the world. And it's about, the one question that I've been asked repeatedly through the years is, how do I get involved? And the answer to that is everywhere in this museum, and it's in every lyric of every song.
What do you think it is about music that makes it such a perfect medium to lead resistance and change?
Yeah, it can provide, it can provide entertainment, it can provide salvation, whether it's the communal gathering, like at a Rage Against the Machine show, sort of a celebration of resistance, or whether it's like the life-saving, lyrics in an earbud when you're alone and feeling desperate. Like music, there's nothing like music that can affect the human soul.
There's a U.S. election coming up, and a lot of people here in Canada may think, well, the U.S. election doesn't affect us here. But I guess why do you think people here across the border should maybe be paying attention to the political climate of what's going on in the States right now?
The key to not giving up hope is the realization that electoral politics are not the only way in which positive change can occur. Sometimes it's a matter of just like mitigating damage at the ballot box, while the substantive change, the real change, often the impetus for that comes from below, not from above. The world does not change itself. That's up to you. And so being in a hotbed of activism, human rights, and workers' rights is, I feel, right at home here.
Tonight's concert gets underway at 9 p.m. and tickets sold out almost instantly. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, it is February 2nd. That means, of course, Groundhog Day, and I'm not forecasting the weather tonight here on the TV show. Manitoba Mervis, as is our weather specialist, Ethan Williams.
Well, that's right, Riley. It's all about the groundhogs today, and in Manitoba, well, it took a little bit for Merv to make up his mind, but he's ultimately decided, yes, he saw his shadow, and that means 6 more weeks of winter. In fact, so sunny today that Merv lost his screwdriver, and he says make sure to keep those shovels around because you might need them. Definitely don't need them today, though. We started on a very sunny note. This model not picking up the cloud cover and the fog as well as I'd like it to, but we've seen a little bit of some increasing cloudiness in sections of the province today. And of course, the fog has been an issue with some advisories issued at times in western sections of the province, and that is likely going to be a theme again tonight. Pretty widespread fog, especially as we get closer to the Saskatchewan border. For Winnipeg and the Red River Valley, not looking to be as much of an issue, but we could see little patches here and there through the overnight and into even tomorrow morning. That likely going to continue to be an issue over these next few days as we see more melting. And we see that melting adding a little more moisture to the atmosphere. But other than that, we're really not expecting much more snow to be impacting us over these next few days. Just a bit of cloud cover moving in tomorrow. I think we'll start sunnier and then looking for some clouds heading into the afternoon tomorrow. Cloud cover likely going to be a theme for us over the weekend and into the beginning of next week. This area of high pressure, though, begins to clear out northern Manitoba toward the end of the weekend. It'll also pull down some colder temperatures, or at least getting closer to seasonal conditions. Things getting a little bit messy in Saskatchewan. That system should largely avoid us. And it'll be a little bit windy overnight tonight and into tomorrow through the Red River Valley in the Winnipeg area, much of northern and eastern Manitoba. I think seeing those pick up at time to time. But as we get into the afternoon and evening tomorrow, we start to see those die off here and there. And then it's really just northern Manitoba and along the Hudson Bay coast where we start to see those pick up as we head into the back end of the weekend. So in terms of what we can expect tomorrow in Winnipeg at 8 a.m., -1, so temperature well above seasonal for this time of year. We're looking at starting off mostly sunny, maybe some lingering fog patches here and there. And again, a little bit breezy overnight and a little bit into the morning as well. By the noon hour, though, that cloud starts to build in, and by 4 o'clock, we're almost fully clouded over. Temperature of 4 degrees, though, so again, a well above seasonal day. Next few days, we're looking at temperatures, again, staying above normal. Should be around -10 for this time of year. But again, you can see the cloud cover building in. Overnight lows, though, Riley, staying pretty warm. I'll have your full provincial forecast coming up.
All right. Thanks so much, Ethan. Well, the Winnipeg Jets are doing some dealing during the All-Star break. They have made a deal with the Montreal Canadiens for center Sean Monahan. The 29-year-old has 13 goals and 22 assists in 49 games for Montreal this season. And while he comes to Winnipeg, the Jets give Montreal a 2024 first-round pick and a conditional third-round pick in 2027. GM Kevin Cheveldayoff says teams always loathe to give up high draft picks in trades, but he feels this newest acquisition is a great fit for the team.
He's a mature professional player that has learned his craft and become a top player over the course of time, in the National Hockey League. And yet, he's still 29 years old. He's someone that brings a lot of different, like you said, a lot of different skills to the table.
With 5 weeks to go before the trade deadline, Cheveldayoff says this time of year can be exciting, but agonizing for teams in contention. And he says the front office's work is not done yet. Well, the next Winter Olympics just got a bit more exciting with news today that NHL players will be participating. League Commissioner Gary Bettman made that announcement.
We know how important international competition is to our players.
Canada won gold the last 2 times NHLers played on Sidney Crosby's overtime thriller in 2010 and in 2014, with Crosby again scoring in the final. The NHL kept its players out of the 2018 games, and COVID torpedoed plans for 2022. The NHL's return will include the 2030 Olympics as well. So for more, we are joined by Alyssa Hood, co-host of Can't Teach Size, a hockey podcast. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Yeah, happy to join.
So Sean Monahan, a veteran center from Montreal, heading here to Winnipeg. What do you make of this trade?
It's exciting. It's very exciting that one of the bigger pieces that's been talked about league-wide as far as targets for contenders this year has made his way to Winnipeg. It's very exciting. So I think lots of questions around what it's going to look like here, what the fit's going to be like. But as far as, general feeling right now, I think a lot of Jets fans are very intrigued.
Yeah, for sure. I know concerns were raised today about his history with injuries. Of course, he's undergone hip surgery. He's been out with other injuries in the past 3 seasons as well. Overall, do you think this was a good move for the Jets?
Yeah, I'm still a little undecided, especially since Sean Monahan left the Western Conference when he went to Montreal a few years back. I feel like I've had a little bit less of a finger on the pulse with this player, but I'm a little less concerned with injuries than I feel like a lot of other people are, just because I know how volatile the game of hockey is, and anyone can get injured at any time. So I don't want to put too much stock into that. If we look too much at the hypotheticals, I think we drive ourselves crazy. But I think this addresses the need that they think is the most important for them right now, which is that 2C role. They're bringing in a player that's really strong when it comes to passing, and I'm putting them with a player like Nikolai Ehlers and Cole Perfetti, which is likely the spot that he slots into brings a lot of hope, and I also think that this is a player that could rejuvenate this power play a little bit, so I think there's some potential here for sure.
For sure. So, I mean, we're still a few weeks out from the trade deadline in March. Why do you think the Jets wanted to get this deal done now?
I think probably a big piece of it was the Elias Lindholm trade that Vancouver made a few days ago, kind of setting the tone for how the trade market was going to look. Every time we see a team pull the trigger early, a few weeks out before the deadline, like Bo Horvat last year, for example, a lot of other teams start to realize that it's time to act. And a team like the Jets knows that they have to add this year. This is a year where after signings of Connor Hellebuyck and Mark Scheifele, they know that contending for a Stanley Cup is definitely the direction they want to go. So they want to make sure they are getting the pieces they want before it's too late. So I think that the Elias Lindholm deal was sort of what set this off, and they found the player that they thought was a fit for them. And there's no point in waiting. You know, the trade deadline is 20 games before the end of the season. Making the trade now gives them 35 games to figure out what Sean Monahan can do for the team. So I think those are kind of the pieces that really played into why they pulled the trigger on this Friday.
Yeah, so I know the Jets have been slumping a bit in the last month or so. Do you think you can help sort of get the plane back on route here, so to speak?
I do, yeah. I think missing their top line center has been a big piece as to why they've been struggling as of late. So bringing in a little bit more depth to that role will help across the board. And I also think, like I kind of mentioned before, the power play has been a piece of a contention for the Winnipeg Jets for the last few months, so to speak. And I think bringing in a little bit more prowess to that will really help kind of bring up the momentum, because power plays are meant to really get your team going at 5-on-5 as well as score to put your team up. So I think it's going to be really important to bring them in and hopefully score a couple more power play goals, which I think will across the board help this team offensively, which is where they need the most help right now.
Yeah. Very quickly, want to shift gears. Gary Bettman announcing NHL players returning to the Olympics in 2026. How do you feel about seeing more NHL players on the Olympic stage?
Man, oh man, am I excited about that. I've been saying to people that listen, I completely understand the NHL's reservations before this, but as a fan who strictly is here for the entertainment, I've wanted NHL players best on best at the Olympics, biggest stage in the world, for so long. It's been, you know, kind of unfortunate not to have them there. I understand why the NHL wasn't doing it, but I'm really, really excited to see what some of these countries will pull together for their rosters.
I mean, Canada, regardless, has put up some very good teams over the years for the Olympics. Do you think this will kind of raise the bar and raise the caliber of hockey at the Olympics?
100% it will. I mean, we've seen not the best of what each country has to offer, all right, with all of the different rules that have been in place with not being able to pull from certain leagues. So seeing the best on best showcase is going to be amazing. And obviously, as a Canadian, I long to see the Canadians do well on these international stages. But hockey has changed a lot around the world since NHL players were last at the Olympics, and we've seen a lot of countries like the US and Germany really kind of up their stakes in hockey. So I'm really excited to see what a best on best national showcase will look like on this stage.
Alyssa Hood, co-host of Can't Teach Size, a hockey podcast. Always appreciate you having you on.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Still ahead tonight, a new initiative aimed at repatriating Ukrainian children believed to have been taken by Russia and forcibly deported during the war. How Canada is helping in the fight to bring them home after the break. Canada will be part of a new initiative that is aimed at repatriating Ukrainian children, victims, Ukraine says, of Russian forced deportations over the course of the war. Canadian Consular Services will be enlisted in the effort. CBC's Bryan Stewart has the story.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly arrived in Kyiv for a series of meetings, including with President Zelensky. A large part of her visit to announce that Canada will be working with Ukraine to lead an international coalition to try and return thousands of children who were believed to be taken and forcibly deported to Russia during the war.
Every child that is being brought back to its family is a victory in itself.
One of those children, Lyra Sidorova. She was living with her grandmother in a city in Kherson that was captured by Russian forces. She signed up to go to this camp in Crimea, seen here in a promotional video. She was supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, but ended up being held for 2 months. The routine was every day. We would get up cold and hungry and sing the Russian national anthem, she said. Russia's Children's Rights Commissioner, who's wanted by the International Criminal Court, along with President Vladimir Putin, denies that Russia is unlawfully deporting thousands of children. It's a lie, she says. Ukraine believes nearly 20,000 were deported to Russia, and less than 400 have been returned. This week, the First Lady of Ukraine, Olena Zelenska, took part in a conference in Riga, focused on what experts say is the excruciating challenge of identifying these kids and bringing them back.
We know that Russia side don't speak with us so honest about all of the situation.
Experts say what's really needed is a mediator, a country or organization that has relations with Russia. Canada says it will use its diplomatic channels to reach out to countries like Qatar, which has already helped broker 2 deals to bring a small number of children home. Bryan Stewart, CBC News, London.
Israeli forces today shelled the outskirts of Gaza's last main refuge, the southern city of Rafah. More than 1 million people are now crammed there. That's half of Gaza's population. Tens of thousands have arrived, fleeing the war in just the last few days alone. Rafah is at the Egyptian border, so they can go no further. Last night, Israel's defense minister indicated a military assault was imminent. The UN's Humanitarian Affairs Office today called Rafah a pressure cooker of despair and expressed its fear for what may come next. Back in this country, 2023 was a year of high prices and high interest rates in Canada. Data released today shows it was also a year of rising bankruptcies. The report came from the country's top financial regulator. The CBC's Nisha Patel reports.
Insolvency filings in Canada are piling up, and bankruptcy offices are in demand.
Our uptick in our business has been substantial. Both our consumer practice, which would be individuals and small enterprises, has been extremely busy.
Richard Goldhar is an insolvency trustee. He says steep labor costs and high interest rates are weighing on business bottom lines. Canadian business insolvencies climbed 41% last year.
So you're facing financial trouble?
Many small businesses are struggling with hefty debt taken on during the pandemic. And as the economy slows, retail, construction, and transportation businesses have been hit particularly hard.
We're seeing a very tough economic climate for a lot of businesses. Profits have plummeted. And at the same time, we've seen, I think, these stresses of perhaps the CBA loan repayments due, other stresses coming into play.
Economists warn if the trend continues, the months ahead could be painful.
We may start to see more job losses and things may start to unravel more quickly than expected. So this is the concern.
Consumer bankruptcies are also rising fast, with insolvencies climbing 23% last year. The crushing cost of living forcing many to take on loans that can be too much to bear.
The high interest borrowing is an absolute issue right now. The cost of payday loans, high interest unsecured loans, credit card loan interest. It's just tremendously high.
With many on the financial brink, experts urge consumers to tackle money problems head on.
The sooner you call somebody for any sort of advice, the better off you are.
While it may seem daunting, it may also offer some relief. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Police in British Columbia are investigating after several shots were fired at a home in Surrey early yesterday morning. A group advocating for Sikh independence says a member's residence was hit by gunfire and it has left the community shaken.
Yeah, it was about 1:30 in the morning, but definitely woke up to, I think, 5 or 6 gunshots. That's what we heard.
The RCMP say multiple shots were fired at the residence in what is thought to be an isolated incident. No injuries were reported. The Sikhs for Justice group says the home belongs to a member of the movement who was an associate of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. He was the pro-Palestinian activist who was killed in a shooting in Surrey last June. It triggered a diplomatic spat with India after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said there was credible intelligence that India's government may have been involved. Actor, director, and former football player Carl Weathers has died. Weathers was probably best known for his role as boxer Apollo Creed in the Rocky films, opposite of Sylvester Stallone, but he played plenty of other roles as well in movies like Predator, Happy Gilmore, and Toy Story 4. He also appeared in numerous TV productions, including The Mandalorian. Before acting, Weathers was a linebacker. He had a brief career in the NFL and later played 18 games with the BC Lions. His manager says Weathers died in his sleep. He was 76 years old. Well, if you're an Amazon Prime Video subscriber, you want to stick around for this next story. Ads are coming to the streaming service unless you pay more per month. The details coming up after the break. Well, it's about to cost viewers a little bit more to watch Amazon Prime Video uninterrupted. It's the latest streaming service to add commercials. Anis Hadari reports on why cheap, ad-free streaming may be a thing of the past.
Amazon Prime Video won't be commercial-free much longer unless you pay more.
If I'm still paying and they're putting ads, then for me that's absolute no-go. Like if I'm paying money, I don't see any ads at all.
I hate having to be forced to pay to not have advertisement in my face. There's so many subscriptions, it's getting so expensive already.
It'll cost $3 more a month to avoid ads. If customers don't pay up, ads begin on Monday. Experts predict either way, it will be lucrative for Amazon.
You look at the majority of their business, which is really the e-commerce business, a grocery business, a retail business. The margins on that business are 2%. The margins on advertising for Amazon is upwards of 50%.
Netflix made similar moves over the past year. Higher prices for ad-free content. And at Bell Media's Crave, price hikes to keep commercials away.
People don't like ads, but people really don't like bad, irrelevant advertising.
But this ad exec says customers won't mind if commercials are targeted.
And if you give people the right ad at the right time, it's actually a really good trade-off for folks. Another example is the Super Bowl. Nobody likes ads, but everybody watches a Super Bowl ad.
If consumers want to keep their streaming ad-free, they may have to turn off the TV and cancel.
Because this is a kind of new thing, these companies are going to be watching the metrics very closely. And so this is kind of now's the time, if you want to try to make a difference, vote with your dollars.
So far, those votes have led to more commercials, at least at Amazon's competitors. YouTube gained more than $1 billion in ad revenue in just 1 year. And at Netflix, 40% of new signups have also said yes to ads. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
Well, another above-seasonal day in southern Manitoba once again. That has led to a little bit more of that snow that we have left melting. Ethan's back with our provincial forecast.
Yeah, Riley, we have not very much snow on the ground, especially the further south you go, only a few centimeters. For the Winnipeg area, 5 to 10 on average. And then as you see here in portions of northern Manitoba, we have about 25 to 30 centimeters on the ground. But you see what's happening here in southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan. The exceptionally warm weather there over the past few days has melted away a lot of the snow cover. And some models showing that for southern Manitoba, including the Red River Valley, by midweek, with those temperatures getting well above the freezing mark, we could very well be seeing that snowpack getting very close to zero, and we could see some bare land in portions of southern Manitoba in the days to come. In the meantime, again, we're not really expecting any moisture, and that continues tonight for northwestern Ontario. Lows for you folks be down kind of between -5 and -10 for the most part. You notice that it's milder, though, as you go into southeastern Manitoba and around the Winnipeg area tonight, looking for that low around -3. We'll see that cloud cover start to increase overnight, and again, a little bit gusty at times in the overnight hours. Widespread fog likely remaining an issue, especially in western sections of the province, where we have seen some fog advisories at times over the past couple of days here, but temperatures very near the freezing mark, so some places may not even get below freezing tonight and through the next couple of nights here. For northern Manitoba, not necessarily the fog that's an issue for you. It's some cloud cover, especially in the far north, and maybe as we get closer to the Hudson Bay coast, a few flurries overnight tonight. Otherwise, these are temperatures overnight tonight and into tomorrow that are some 15 to 20 degrees above normal, and the cloud cover likely lingering for many sections of that part of the province as we head into the day tomorrow. For Brandon and for Westman and for the Parklands, I think a lot of that cloud cover going to be sticking around tomorrow that we see build in overnight tonight. But still, temperatures like we saw today and for a little bit earlier in the week, still well above the freezing mark. For Winnipeg and the Red River Valley, we'll start to see that cloud cover moving in as we head through the day. And again, by the afternoon, likely eastern sections of the province going to start to see that move in too. For northwestern Ontario, that cloud cover likely not getting into you until the evening hours tomorrow. But in the meantime, a partly to mostly sunny day. We're looking at temperatures roughly between 2 and 4 degrees. I'll have a look, Riley, at your full Winnipeg 7-day forecast coming up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ethan. Trifactor Triathlon Club in One Just City are hosting their annual winter event this weekend called Beat the Cold. The event is in support of JAWS, or Just a Warm Sleep, an emergency warming shelter in Osborne Village for those who are experiencing homelessness. Nancy Ryan Arbe is a board member at One Just City. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
So first, I want to ask about the event this weekend. I understand that you guys have had to make some changes this year because of the warm weather.
We absolutely. Usually the event is a skate, bike, run event, but we will not be on the river this year skating. So it'll be a run, bike, run, but that doesn't stop people from having fun and raising awareness for the sleep program as well as fundraising.
So tell me a bit more about tomorrow's event then. I understand that it starts early in the morning.
Yes, so the race itself starts at 9 o'clock for individuals who are going to brave the cold as it is right now. And then at 9:05, the relay athletes will get out there. And it's 4.2 kilometer run followed by a 3.6 kilometer bike and then finished with a 2.5 kilometer run.
Okay. So if anyone wants to take part, how are they able to do so?
Well, they should show up early. Most of the race kits have already been given out as of tonight, but if you showed up at 7:30 in the morning, tomorrow morning, in room 201 at the Forks, we'll see if we can get you in.
Okay. So I understand that this whole event that's taking place tomorrow at the Forks supports Just a Warm Sleep. So speaking of the shelter, how have operations gone so far this winter?
Well, it's been full every single night since it started in November. And I know people think it's not that cold right now, but you know, even -5, even at 0, it's too cold to sleep outside. So 30 individuals have been showing up 7 days a week at Just a Warm Sleep from November up until this point, and the program runs until the end of March.
Is there any one particular thing that you guys are in need of the most right now?
Really, right now, we're needing funds. And why I say that, it costs One Just City to staff the program. And so we are looking for Winnipeggers to come out and donate to Beat the Cold. And you can donate up until March the 1st for this event. Or donate directly to One Just City to support Just a Warm Sleep.
All right. Nancy Ryan Arbe, thank you so much for your time tonight.
You're very welcome, and thank you for your interest.
Still ahead, beading has been an important part of Indigenous culture for thousands of years, and traditionally, women were at the forefront of that craft. But that's starting to change. A knowledge keeper from Sapatoyak Cree Nation near Swan River has picked up the skill. More on his story after the break. Beads have been used by indigenous communities for thousands of years, for trade, for ceremonies, and of course for jewelry. And while women have traditionally been at the forefront of beading, that is starting to change. Louise Big Eagle has more.
It's usually women doing a lot of the beadwork. Everyone always gets a little surprised, or I was like, oh, you did this. I was like, yeah, it's...
I've always just had such a deep love for it.
As a First Nations woman, I wear a lot of beaded jewelry, and most of the beaders I know are women. But as I've learned, there are more male beaders out there, and I wanted to find out more.
Kind of keep it interesting to the eye. Like there's gold right here, 24-karat gold beads.
So I met Gary God in his home in Regina. He's been beading for more than 30 years, but as a child, he only knew one male beader.
He was one of the first two-spirited men I've seen in my life as well. So I guess there was kind of stigma attached to two-spirited people at that time. So a lot of guys didn't really want to get too close. But for some reason, his skill with the beading needle and the thread and all that stuff it caught my eye. But I was paying attention from a distance, yeah. And then when I eventually ended up with some of his beadwork, I really grew to appreciate the things that he carried.
I wanted to know why God started beading too. As it turns out, he didn't have the money to buy powwow regalia. So he decided to learn how to bead.
But leggings are something that I enjoy doing. They give you a large space and a large area to express yourself and to add and all kinds of bling. It's kind of in our nature to kind of outdo each other, that competitive nature of males. And maybe that's probably what pushes me as well. And kind of obsessive, OCD, kind of perfectionist.
As I've learned, the beading world welcomes different voices.
Sometimes I might not be able to articulate well how I'm feeling, but I know that I can express that through my art of beadwork. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's special.
Jordy Arnstar is a two-spirit artist. He uses beading to advocate for causes he's passionate about.
That's the beautiful thing with any form of art, is that when you're, through my creations, I can have a discussion with maybe a non-Indigenous person about, like, well, why did you do a turtle? Mm-hmm. Because Turtle Island. Yeah. Well, why land back? And we can talk about that.
Arnstar has always felt supported in his art, but says there are still misconceptions about who beads.
And when we see beauty, we associate beauty with femininity. So it's like a lot of people have this perception that if a man is to make beautiful earrings like this, then they're not manly. Or if they do, or they'll leave that to their woman or whatever. And it's just like that kind of thinking we have to remember, that's thinking that was ingrained in us.
Some male beaders take pride in smashing stereotypes.
This was one of the first crowns I made, or I attempted.
Tom Benjo is a partner at a consulting firm. I was surprised to find out when he's not in the boardroom, he's beading. And he started when he was 9.
My aunt taught me how to bead and had me do a lot of the fill-in on some of the beadwork, so I got all the grunt work. Eventually, over time, I started to sort of my own style of beadwork and started playing around with designs, and but was able to really learn about the meaning when I started.
The heels and crowns he beads for his wife have other women flooding his inbox with requests. He also makes regalia for himself and for his children to wear at powwows.
You need to be able to tell a story, and the teaching in it is, when we dance powwow, we're given certain designs, we're given colors, and when we create our beadwork, when we dance, the creator sees us and he knows that's us because we're associated with those designs, that story. And so it's a way of showing who you are.
The beaders tell me there's no gender role in beading and no restrictions on making beautiful art. Louise Big Eagle, CBC News, Regina.
Shake it for the birds, shake it for the bees, shake it for the catfish swimming down deep in the creek, for the crickets and the critters and the squirrels. Shake it to the moon, shake it for me, girl. Country girl, shake it for me, girl. Shake it for me, girl. Shake it for me.
Well, if you're a country music fan like me, here's some big news for you. Bryan is coming to Winnipeg. The American Idol celebrity judge is bringing his Mind of a Country Boy tour to Canada Life Centre on April the 25th. He'll be joined by Chase Beckham, Tennille Arts, and DJ Rock. Tickets for that show go on sale next Friday. We'll let Luke Bryan take us to break as we look at downtown Winnipeg this evening. A fog advisory in place for the Dooley Lake and Lynn Lake region. Ethan has our 7-day forecast after the break. Stay with us.
Well, a warm one tomorrow with increasing cloudiness through the day in Winnipeg. A little bit of some morning fog and could be a bit breezy at times. And then the temperatures keep rising, but the cloud cover keeps building into the Winnipeg area as we head into the beginning of next week. Next best chance for any moisture likely coming Wednesday, Thursday. That's when we start to see those temperatures dropping back down below the freezing mark. But as you can see, Riley, still staying well above normal for this time of year.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Ethan. Well, a remarkable senior from BC is making waves in competitive swimming. She broke 3 world records recently, just shy of, get this, her 100th birthday. and she didn't take up the sport until years after retirement. Arthi Thayapuran has more on what motivates her.
Betty Brussel never intended to take part in swimming competitions.
I was never that serious. I go for it, but if I don't win, it's okay too. But somehow or other, I did win quite often.
And at 99, Brussel is doing more than just winning. On January 20th at the Canadian Masters Championship in Victoria, she broke several world records in her age category. While she competes in various styles and distances, the 400-meter freestyle is her favorite. Brussel swims laps twice a week at a Surrey pool.
I just feel good about swimming. I just love to swim. I love the feeling of being in the water, gliding through the water. You have no weight in the pool.
While she's a bit shy of all the recent attention, Brussel hopes her achievements can encourage others to be active.
I really honestly don't feel special. Very often when I come in the pool on a meet, people come up to me and they say, I thought I was too old to start, or I think I'm going to quit, I'm getting old, and then look at me and they say, well, you can do it if you want to.
Arthi Thayapuran, CBC News, Vancouver.
And that's our show for tonight. Thanks for joining us. See you at 11.